Hey there, welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk about something that might hit close to home for many of you. The journey from being completely consumed by gaming to building a successful, fulfilling life. Now, before you think this is going to be another games are bad lecture, hold on, I've been there. I've spent 16 hours straight playing, skipping meals, lying to friends and family about my time. I've felt that rush when you finally beat that impossible boss. And I've also felt the crushing emptiness when you realize you've been living in a digital world while your real life falls apart. But here's the thing, and this is why you should stick around for the next 20 minutes. The same qualities that make someone a dedicated gamer can actually become superpowers in the real world. We're talking about focus, strategic thinking, persistence, problem solving, and the ability to learn complex systems. The question isn't whether you can be successful after gaming addiction. The question is, how do you redirect that incredible mental energy toward building something meaningful? So whether you're currently struggling with gaming addiction, you're trying to help someone who is, or you're just curious about how the human mind works when it comes to digital engagement, this episode will give you practical tools and a fresh perspective. Let's start by understanding what we're really dealing with here. Gaming addiction, or what psychologists call internet gaming disorder, isn't just about playing too much. It's about the brain's reward system getting hijacked. Think of your brain like a garden. Every time you do something that feels good, whether it's eating chocolate, getting a compliment, or leveling up in a game, you're watering certain pathways. Over time, these pathways become like superhighways, while other paths get overgrown with weeds. Games are incredibly sophisticated at triggering what we call intermittent reinforcement. This is the same principle that makes gambling so addictive. You never know exactly when you'll get that next reward. Maybe it's a rare item drop. Maybe it's winning a competitive match. Maybe it's just the satisfaction of completing a quest. This unpredictability makes your brain release dopamine, not just when you get the reward, but in anticipation of it. Now, here's where it gets interesting from a philosophical standpoint. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle talked about eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but really meaning human flourishing or living your best life. He argued that true fulfillment comes from developing your potential and contributing to something greater than yourself. Gaming can feel like we're developing potential. After all, we're learning, growing, mastering skills. But there's a crucial difference. The growth happens in a closed system. It's like becoming incredibly skilled at playing chess, but only with imaginary pieces on an imaginary board that disappears when you close the laptop. The neuroplasticity research shows us something fascinating, though. Your brain's ability to focus intensely, to persist through challenges, to learn complex rule systems. These capabilities don't disappear when you stop gaming. They're like muscles that have been trained in one specific way, but can be retrained for different purposes. Dr. Anna Lemke, in her research on dopamine and addiction, explains that our brains are constantly trying to maintain balance. When we flood our system with easy dopamine hits from games, our brain compensates by reducing our baseline happiness. But the beautiful thing is, this process is reversible. Throughout history, thinkers have grappled with similar challenges. How do we deal with activities that provide immediate pleasure but potentially long-term harm? The Stoic philosophers, particularly Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, developed frameworks that are incredibly relevant today. They talked about the discipline of desire, learning to want what you have rather than having what you want. This isn't about suppressing desires, but about consciously choosing where to direct your mental energy. Epictetus, who was actually a slave before becoming a philosopher, understood better than most what it meant to feel trapped by circumstances. He taught that we always have a choice in how we respond, even when we feel powerless. This applies directly to gaming addiction. You might not be able to control the urge to play, but you can control what you do with that urge. Modern addiction specialists like Dr. Gabor Mate have shifted the conversation from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. Gaming addiction often develops as a coping mechanism for underlying issues: loneliness, anxiety, depression, trauma, or simply a lack of meaningful challenge in real life. Dr. Ryan and Desi's self-determination theory identifies three basic human needs: autonomy, feeling in control of your choices; competence, feeling capable and effective; and relatedness, feeling connected to others. Games are brilliant at satisfying these needs in artificial ways. The key to recovery isn't just removing games, but finding healthier ways to meet these same fundamental needs. Now let's talk about practical solutions. The most effective approaches combine understanding the psychology with concrete action steps. First, there's what psychologists call environmental design. Just like you wouldn't keep a bottle of whiskey on your desk if you were recovering from alcoholism, you need to make gaming harder and healthier alternatives easier. This might mean moving your gaming setup out of your bedroom, using website blockers, or even temporarily staying somewhere without easy access to games. But environmental changes alone aren't enough. You need what Viktor Frankl called meaning-making. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, observed that people can endure almost any suffering if they can find meaning in it. The transition away from gaming addiction isn't just about stopping something bad. It's about starting something meaningful. So how do we actually apply this in daily life? Let me walk you through what I call the Gamer's Advantage framework. First, recognize that your gaming experience has given you several superpowers that most people don't have. You understand progression systems. You're comfortable with failure as part of learning. You can focus intensely when motivated. And you're familiar with the concept of grinding, doing repetitive tasks to achieve long-term goals. The key is redirecting these skills. Instead of grinding for experience points in a game, you can grind for skills in real life. Instead of optimizing your character build, you can optimize your daily routines. Start with what I call reality quests. Break down big life goals into smaller, game-like challenges. Want to get fit? Don't just say, "I'll exercise more." Create specific quests. Complete 10 push-ups without stopping. Walk 5,000 steps today. Try one new healthy recipe this week. Track your progress like you would track stats in a game. For the social aspect, remember that humans are inherently social creatures. Games often provide a sense of community, so you need to replace that. This doesn't mean you have to become super outgoing overnight. Start small, maybe join one club, take one class, or regularly attend one social event. The goal is gradual exposure, not dramatic transformation. Now let's address the elephant in the room: withdrawal symptoms. When you significantly reduce gaming, you're going to feel bored, restless, maybe even depressed for a while. This is completely normal and temporary. Your brain is recalibrating its reward systems. During this phase, lean into what psychologists call behavioral activation. This means doing meaningful activities, even when you don't feel like it. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around. Start with tiny commitments. Maybe it's making your bed every morning, or reading for 15 minutes before sleep, or calling one friend per week. One practical technique that works really well is the replacement hierarchy. List all the things you used to get from gaming: excitement, achievement, social connection, escape from stress, mental stimulation. Then, for each item, brainstorm 3 real-world activities that could provide the same benefit. When you feel the urge to game, consult your list and choose one alternative. For managing urges in the moment, try the surfing technique. Instead of fighting the craving or giving in immediately, just observe it. Notice how it feels in your body. Notice how it changes over time. Cravings are like waves. They build up, peak, and then naturally subside. Most intense gaming urges last about 10 to 15 minutes if you don't feed them. Let me address some questions that come up frequently when people are making this transition. What if I can't imagine life without gaming? It's been my identity for so long. This is probably the most common concern I hear. First, understand that identity is more flexible than we think. You're not losing who you are. You're expanding who you can become. Many of the qualities that made you a good gamer, strategic thinking, persistence, ability to learn complex systems, these are incredibly valuable in other areas of life. Think of it like learning a new character class in an RPG. You're not deleting your old character, you're developing new skills and abilities. Your gaming experience becomes part of your backstory, not your entire story. But what about my gaming friends? Won't I lose all my social connections? This is a legitimate concern, and it requires some nuance. True friends will support your growth, even if it means you spend less time gaming together. You might find that some relationships were more about the shared activity than genuine connection, and that's okay. Consider gradually shifting how you interact with gaming friends. Maybe you start meeting up in person occasionally, or find other shared interests. You don't have to completely cut ties, but you do need to expand your social world beyond gaming. How do I deal with the fear that I'm wasting the skills and knowledge I've gained from years of gaming? Actually, many gaming skills transfer beautifully to real life. Project management, team coordination, resource optimization, strategic planning, quick decision-making under pressure. These are all valuable professional skills. Some people even find ways to monetize their gaming knowledge through streaming, content creation, game development, or esports coaching. The key is to approach it consciously and strategically, rather than as an escape mechanism. What if I relapse and start gaming excessively again? Relapses are part of recovery for many people, not a sign of failure. If it happens, don't use it as evidence that you can't change. Instead, treat it as data. What triggered the relapse? What was missing in your life that you tried to fill with gaming? How can you adjust your approach? The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every time you choose a real-world activity over gaming, you're strengthening those neural pathways we talked about earlier. Let's wrap up by revisiting the core message. The transition from gaming addiction to success isn't about becoming a completely different person. It's about redirecting your existing strengths toward building a life that actually satisfies those deep human needs for growth, connection, and meaning. Remember the 3 key principles we've covered. First, understand that your brain is incredibly adaptable. The same neuroplasticity that allowed you to develop intense gaming habits can help you develop new, healthier patterns. Second, recognize your existing strengths. The focus, persistence, and strategic thinking you've developed aren't weaknesses to overcome. They're assets to redirect. Third, replacement is more effective than restriction. Instead of just trying to stop gaming, actively build alternatives that meet the same psychological needs in healthier ways. The path isn't always linear, and it's not always easy. But here's what I want you to remember. Every hero's journey involves leaving the familiar world and venturing into unknown territory. The gaming world felt safe because it was predictable and controllable. The real world is messier, more complex, and sometimes more challenging. But it's also where real growth happens. It's where you can impact other people's lives, where you can build something lasting, where you can discover parts of yourself that no game could ever reveal. Your gaming experience hasn't been wasted time. It's been training. Training in focus, in persistence, in learning complex systems, in working toward long-term goals. Now it's time to apply those skills to the most important game of all, building a life you're truly proud of. Thanks for spending these minutes with me today. Remember, every expert was once a beginner, and every success story started with someone deciding to take the first small step.